Welcome to the Sustainable Napier Committee meeting for the 10th of August 2023. Could we all stand for the opening karakia, please? Te tawa mai runga, te tawa mai raro, te tawa mai roto, te tawa mai waho, kia tawa mai te mauritu, te mauriura, ki te katoa, haunie, uie, tākie. I'd just like to remind you that this meeting is being live streamed on our council Facebook page. Apologies, I've had so far as Deputy Mayor Brosnan, Councillor Nigel Simpson, Councillor Chad Taraha and Coralie Thompson. Is there any others? Shouldn't be because the rest of you are here. Okay, do I have a mover, please? Councillor Mawson, second Councillor Taylor. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Do I have any conflicts of interest? No. No public forum. Announcements by the Mayor, please.
Morena, through the chair, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everybody who joined us to mark the rededication of our Napier War Memorial on Sunday. It was a truly special morning and a real celebration of all the hard work and determination of our community, our elected members and many council officers and other organisations throughout the community who all pulled together to make it happen. For me personally, this was a journey that started in 2016, and so it was wonderful to see it come to fruition for all of our community. And it was also just a great way to bring the community together in the heart of Napier to commemorate the significance of this important landmark too. So from me personally, just a huge thank you to absolutely everybody that was involved, and it was wonderful to celebrate with everybody on Sunday.
Thank you very much. I've just got one announcement on the Active Transport Committee. It was resolved at Land Transport Committee last Friday that a paper will come to council on setting up a Napier Active Transport Committee. That's it for me. Is there any notification of any minor matters, please? No. Any announcements by management?
No.
No. Okay, can I have confirmation of meeting minutes for Sustainable Napier Committee meeting held on the 22nd of June 2023 be taken as a true and accurate record of the meeting? Moved by Councillor Mawson, seconded by Councillor Crystal. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Right, we move on to capital, agenda item number 1, capital program delivery. Jamie.
Yeah, so Mario, I'll take the report as read, but just note a few points for your reference. So the new 23-24 capital program started last month, 1st July, and that budget's been set at 75.9 million. The prior year, 22-23, we achieved 54.9 million of the 86.2 million final budget. So, yeah, pretty fair effort, I thought. That's pretty much me on the report. I've got a few photos, and then perhaps we could take a few questions at the end of those.
Yep.
So you're further to the Mayor, just a photo of the War Memorial. Official opening last Sunday. I'd just like to give a shout out to Drew Brown and my team that was heavily involved with that, and the wider project team. Plenty of challenges on that particular project, and I think the turnout, the day, and just even looking at that photo is fantastic reflection of all the hard work put in by so many people. So I think we can chalk that up as a bit of a win, that one. It's another little project out by Riverside Park. A few little smaller projects at that site as well. A little dog park. There's a playground to come as well. And this is just a new car park and footpath area that's going in. So little project's underway. And the last one for today is just the West Shore Ahuriri walking and cycling connectivity. That project is nearing completion. Made quite a change in that particular location. And we're hoping to have that project wrapped up early next month. So that's pretty much me, short and sweet. Just wondering if there's any questions.
I have any question? I've got to say, coming to this meeting this morning, it was lovely to see the outside without a big fence around it and the running water. It was really nice. So any questions, please? Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Jamie, thank you. Love seeing all the greens on a report like this too. That table's very impressive. Just a quick question around the industry capacity. Knowing that there are challenges in that area, does that change the way that we are looking to procure or group projects? Just wondering if you give us a bit of detail on that approach.
Yes, certainly. That's something we definitely are considering. We're actually doing right now. Obviously trying to reduce some of the internal administration or staff by grouping projects. So we've actually got a few projects out at the moment where we've grouped a few retaining walls. And certainly it's a focus for the team to work with the asset owners to make sure we are grouping projects of a similar type. It does take a fair amount of time to procure, and it actually costs per procurement. So if we can definitely bundle projects at the one time, it's a definite advantage.
Thank you.
Have any other questions? Councillor McGrath.
Just through the chair. The War Memorial, the lower part leading to the pathways, we've been challenged in the last week since it's opened about its accessibility to certain members of our community who are mobility compromised. It goes down, once you get to the lower lawn area, it's very challenging to get in front of the floral clock to take a photo, and it's very, very challenging to get a wheelchair down through that area. Is that likely to be looked at in the future for improvement?
It's being looked at right now, actually. Yeah, it was an issue that was highlighted, actually just prior to it even opening. It was the challenge of building that lower ramp where they had to excavate for the concrete work and the foundation for that concrete work. So it was excavated right beside that existing limestone path that had a thin layer of pea metal on it. And unfortunately, the fix that was chosen at the time was just to place additional pea metal in there. So yeah, I have seen the photo of the gentleman getting his mobility scooter stuck there. So yes, it's on our defects list, and we're looking to get that sorted out pretty sharpish.
Excellent. Thank you.
Other questions? Do I have a question? Sorry.
Oh. Question, a little bit of a request, I suppose. This project here, can we please get the sign updated? It says completion by June this year.
Yep, we're ahead of you on that. Yes, we've seen your request come through. We had asked the contractor to change that, I think a couple of weeks ago. Sometimes it can be challenging getting people to do things you ask them to do, but yeah, we've followed up with that, and I know the project manager has one of the signs changed already, and I think the other one today. So
Brilliant.
hopefully we'll get that sorted for you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
Don't want Tara, I'm missing out, but could you give me any idea on the Maggie's Way pathway from Dolbell through to Churchill Drive? There's a piece there that looks like it's just sitting a bit of a drain problem, that one, and also it's good to see the Pookie Tap to Dolbell Street, that's nearing completion, I would think, but the other part going from Dolbell across to Churchill Drive?
Yeah, I don't really have too much detail on that. Sorry. I do have a heavy hitter in
We,
There he is.
At the back here, so,
Saw him walk in, that's why I
yeah,
asked.
impact player off the bench.
I think Jason must have
Cheers,
an answer.
Jason.
He jumped out of that chair pretty quickly.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so I have spoken to the project manager regarding it, and there has been a number of delays, obviously with our contractor being tied up with recovery and then the wet weather. But he is intending that by September, or by the end of September, we'll have both those connections complete. So the contractor in the next 2 weeks should be undertaking the car parking and concrete path along Dolbell Street and completing the connection across Puketapu Road. And in the following weeks, completing the walkway through the spillway from the top of the Taipo stream and connecting across Churchill Drive. So I've been told September, and I'll be holding them to that.
And I will be too.
Thank you.
Cheers, thank you.
Thank you. Have any further questions? Do I have a mover for the officer's recommendation, please? Councillor Mawson, Councillor Brown, you wish to speak?
It's enjoying these reports. It's nice to see the progress. It's good.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favour of the recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. So wastewater treatment plant recovery update, and it's Phil, who is now manager audit strategy, and this paper's wrong because he's no longer acting. So congratulations.
Kia ora, thank you all. Yes, this is kind of like a wrap-up report for the phase 1 and 2 recovery. So, yeah, through the chair, my recommendation is to receive this report as read. My only thing to highlight is the financial implications section where we're seeing likely there'll be significant extra investment required over and above the insurance claims to create resilience in that plant to avoid future repetition. So I've also got some photos to show you.
Sorry, ask a question. The financial implications, your team has yet to understand the cost of that. Is that correct? And because that'll still need to come through the council financial process.
Yeah, through the chair, yes. The investigations are underway as to what those options look like. And when we have those options and the sort of estimates, they'll be brought back for a decision at that point.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Going to give us some photos now, are we?
So yeah, just a photo of the BTF pump building, and the industrial screen and electrical building. The site's looking really tidy. Well, from this angle, there's still a bit of silt being moved around, probably behind the camera. But yeah, the process is going really well. A short clip of the first BTF coming online. So if you're not aware, that's the distributor arms that distribute the wastewater over the top of the media inside the BTFs. Just noting the colour of the effluent there, with a comparison to the second one. So this is the second BTF coming online 2 weeks later, and as you can see, just from the clarity of the wastewater, the treatment process is starting to work.
I just ask, is the water gone through the one and into the two? Or
No, yeah,
that's working better.
It goes into a well and it's pumped up into both at the same time. But that's just indicating that the first one's already treating that water because a lot of it recycles.
Thank you.
They were just some initial results we had back. So we're not in the position, I guess, to say full treatment has been reinstated. We kind of need enough, sequential results to prove that our process is working. But the initial results showing against the 12-month average, you can see the raw solids and the raw BOD reduction, I guess, in the treated is indicating that the process is basically working as designed. And that's just a picture of the outfall sampling. The guys were out there again early this week, so they've been, since the cyclone, we've been sampling around the outfall every other week, which I think is normally quarterly. So that's just to make sure that the effects of the waste on the ocean are, it's just to monitor those effects.
Just a question, Bill. I see the picture there. It looks like it's just near the port that they're sampling. Is that?
Yeah, they sample a whole variety. So they sample around the outfall itself, and then at different locations along the coast, back towards Napier, and so it's just monitoring those effects on the sort of the entire coastline.
So in the outlet pipe there was no leaks or anything like that as a result of the cyclone?
We haven't, through the chair, we haven't yet noted any damage to the outfall. We had diver inspections during the initial phase because we were unscreened. We had divers on site about every other week to inspect the diffusers and the duckbills to make sure, because they were getting a lot of bits of timber and pine cones and all sorts blocking up the outfall. So that was a risk at the time, but we've gone back to more or less routine inspections and the drone flights when the sea's clear. We haven't identified any issues.
That's good. Okay. Crystal.
Just following on from that, did it get covered in silt? Did it get like half the seafloor seam to?
Through the chair, yes. There are parts of the outfall pipeline that have been historically buried in silt. There was no major change in that during the cyclone. This is some pictures of the biobeds. So these are the 2 BTF biobeds that have been completed. So just a picture on the top right, that's the removal of the bark, and down to the bottom there you can see the empty bed with the oyster mesh, that media that holds up the bark. The Miller screen bark bed recommissioning is underway, so they're currently removing all the bark, and that one was far worse damaged because it's in the ground, so the silt actually just buried it, whereas these two, because they've raised surrounds, the silt didn't actually penetrate into the bark beds quite so bad, so there was very little damage.
Thank you for that. With the BTF plant, is that the ultimate, are we intending to do any other kind of further treatment in the future, or is this is it?
Through the chair, the master plan identifies some other options. So, and I guess the standards, and then like the environmental standards and things that drive the process, and the community need, that, those decisions are yet to be made on what those future treatment options are.
Yeah, wise.
Thank you, through the chair, and not a question, but really just wanting to say a huge thank you to everybody that's been involved in getting our wastewater treatment plant back operational and in fact finishing ahead of schedule. I was fortunate to go for a site visit actually literally the day before the second BTF was back operational. Councillor Crystal and I even got to walk up the steps right to the top and have a look in, and it was incredible to see what the site was looking like compared to my previous visit not long after the cyclone, where I was in full hazmat gear. And so, you know, just to everybody involved, an incredible achievement in a short space of time, and wanting to say thank you for all the hard work.
Kia ora.
So do I have a mover for this matter, please? Councillor Mawson, seconded Councillor Crown. Do you wish to say that?
Yeah, just thanks very much for keeping us informed about this massive asset, which I know is important to our community, and also just appreciating that we don't necessarily need reports for reporting's sake, so it's good to hear that you guys are moving more into that sort of BAU space, and look forward, well, not so much to the report coming for the costings.
Okay. Anyone else wish to comment? Okay, put all those in favour of the officer's recommendation, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much, Phil. Brian, road stopping, Parda Lister Place, Maraenui.
Marina, so this item seeks approval from council to, pursuant to the Public Works Act, to legally stop part of Lister Place, Maraenui, and what we're talking about there is just like its current cul-de-sac, so we're simply talking about stopping the turning heads there as highlighted in yellow on the attached plan, and then vest that the land in the adjoining properties which are owned by Kāinga Ora. So this is simply to facilitate a social housing development by Kāinga Ora. I think it's 30 residential units will be constructed. So today, of course, we're just simply considering the legal stopping of those two turning heads. Any other issues relating to the development that they're covered by a resource consent. So that's all we're considering today. So happy to take any questions on this one.
Yes. Thank you, Brian. It does say the subdivision consent has been granted, and it sounds like subject to this being...
Yes, the resource consent is subject to this road stopping process happening, because council doesn't want to be left with those no man's land in terms of those turning heads. So the resource consent is subject to this process being completed. Yep.
Councillor McGrath.
Just through the chair. Once this is completed, if it goes through today, do the sections get revalued with the extra land on them? Does it produce it'll change the rating base?
Eventually, there'll be a catch up with that under our rating system. Yeah, but the adjoining properties are owned by Kāinga Ora, who pay rates to council, obviously. Yeah, and it does have the support of the transportation team, so don't go ahead and do any of these sort of things without our transportation team's involvement.
Any other? Yes, Councillor.
Through the chair, just a question for the transportation team. Is there any plans for more speed bumps, just considering how much speeding happens around that area?
Through you, Chair, not in this part of the design. We have a fairly narrow road corridor. The section of road that you can see on page 15 of your agenda, from the turning head back down to Geddes Ave, is currently just a walkway, so that's basically expanding. So we are going to get that extra link through, but it is fairly narrow and fairly short sight lines, so we're not intending to have any built in, but we will obviously monitor like we have with all of the area and respond if needed.
Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation, please? Councillor Bogue, seconded Councillor Gregg. Would you like to speak? Anything to speak on? No. So all of those in favour of the officer's recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Item 4, road stopping part of Tariha Street, West Shore.
So once again, this item just seeks approval from council to initiate the road stopping process pursuant to the Local Government Act for that strip of land which is in Tariha Street. So you're familiar with Tariha Street. It's a little dead-end street that provides access to the West Shore Beach and walkway from Charles Street. The roading, the little cul-de-sac area was redeveloped a number of years ago, and for some reason the legalisation of the strip of current legal road reserve occupied by 5 Charles Street wasn't, that matter wasn't legalised. So the 5 Charles Street already occupies this area of land. They have a retaining wall and landscaping, and they would like to legalise that occupation through this road stopping process and purchase that strip of land. Once again, it has the support of the transportation team. It's not a formed road at the moment. Happy to answer any questions.
No questions? I have a mover and a second. Councillor Taylor moved, seconded Councillor McGrath. Any comments?
Would have been terrible to have to change their roof line.
Yeah, I noticed that, yeah.
Great observation. So,
Nothing.
all good? Okay, all of those in favour of the officer's recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Item 4, Robin, you're still there? This is, I think, an answer of a previous mention about the ramps and accessibility on Matarahau. There you go.
Thank you, Chair. As the introduction stated, this is a request from Councillor Brown to bring a paper just providing an update on the accessibility of the steps and ramps that we have dotted around Matarahau. We do have 28 walkways, ramps, steps, often a combination of all 3. Some of them serve as additional capacity for tsunami or earthquake evacuations. Some of them almost entirely recreational. Some of them do provide some very, very key links into the CBD or to schools. So they have a variety of functions. At the moment, we have 2 that are completely closed. That's the Onslow Steps, or what we refer to as the Onslow Steps, which is Onslow to Brewster, and the Faraday Steps, which is May Avenue to Faraday Street. Both of those were damaged in the November 2020 event. These aren't Gabrielle caused failures, although Gabrielle did exacerbate some of the issues on the Onslow steps where the work was already underway. That one's been due for renewal for probably about 5-6 years, and it's taken a long, long time. We've had to deal with some land issues. The original steps weren't within the road reserve, they were on private land. And likewise, somebody's garden was on road reserve, so it was nobody was really worried about it particularly. It's pretty hostile land just through that section. So the Onslow Steps is well under design, it's well under construction. We have faced some real challenges with land moving while construction's been happening. And the initial geotechnical investigation indicated that we would probably meet bedrock far sooner than we have met bedrock, so we've had to drill a lot deeper, which means heavier equipment, which means harder access, and it's all causing delays in resolution of that one. With May Avenue, I've just texted Tony Mills just to get an update on that one, and we do have consultants bringing options to us in the next couple of weeks. Some of them may be fairly straightforward and easy fixes where we would just sort of bridge the gap. Some of them may be quite considerably more expensive and taxing. So, sorry, taxing is probably a poor word to use. Challenging. So yeah, happy to answer any questions. Oh, I've also included the signs which we've got going up, and that was courtesy of Jamie's team and the comms team pulling those together. So appreciation to them.
Questions? Councillor Crown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Robin, I've got to be honest with you. I found this paper pretty shallow in regards to the information that we are making available. I was thinking about the other mechanisms that we have available in which to share information, and just to share my opinion out loud with everyone, wondering whether one of those could have been better used rather than this mechanism. I find that it doesn't provide any certainty to residents around timelines or whether there are amended levels of service in regards to the walkways, ramps, stairs, which is what I'm looking for from a paper like this. So I'm wondering if you wanted to make any comment or provide us with any further details as to timelines, etc.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair, I'm very sorry that that's how it's landed with you, Councillor. We would give you dates if we had dates. We're literally redesigning the Onslow steps at the moment. There is a new retaining wall needs to be designed to support the land that the steps are on. That's on third-party land, so we've got more land negotiations to deal with. And as I say, we still don't have a design for Onslow steps for the Faraday one, because there is obviously that very long drop below the damaged area. We would give firm dates if we had firm dates. In response to the method of communication, this is one we have been updating through Facebook and some of our other channels as well as we've gone on, but obviously with the length of time some of these have taken, it's a difficult call to know how often to keep telling people that these things are closed, because the people who use them regularly know that they're closed. The people who live adjacent them know that they're closed still. So it is a challenge, and I accept the criticism on the information shared.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you for the paper, Robin. A question. These two walkways in particular seem to be getting sort of progressively gnarly and complicated, and therefore I'm assuming expensive. Just wondering sort of what the process is around, and at what stage do we do a cost to benefit analysis of actually, is it worth repairing these, or do we drop our level of service in terms of these walkways? What's the sort of process?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. We haven't spent very much on May Faraday yet. We've had a few geotechnical investigations, and we've had a couple of potential suppliers have a look at it and give us some ideas of what will be possible. So we haven't spent very much there. Onslow Steps, as I said, needed renewing prior to the events which have made it worse and more expensive. Appreciate that it's not a massively escalating cost. It is certainly more than we initially envisaged because of this extra retaining wall that we've had to put in. They're quite a strong feature of Matareho, and it's certainly something that a lot of our visitors and tourists enjoy walking around. We've got a map that gets given out from the eyesight, and people kind of find their way up to the Bluff Hill Lookout or various other sort of key spots. Lookout by Clyde Road, for instance. And I think there's probably quite a strong sort of social need to keep them wherever we can. Most of them are dedicated road reserves, so we'd have to go through a stopping process. But yeah, I think there's a kind of a social need to keep them open as much as a cost benefit could actually calculate helpfully.
So what I'm hearing is that the costs are escalating, but not outside what is making you comfort that the need is still there for it.
It's not made us step back and say, should we do that? I would go to Mr. Bond and say, this is getting out of hand. What should we do here? At that point, we would probably come back to this committee and ask for a response for you.
Thank you for the reassurance.
Thank you. Councillor Gregg.
Through the chair, thank you. You actually answered my question, Robin. I was just going to ask, do we have a publicly available map of the walkways so that visitors to Napier and people who don't live on the hill can actually see where they are? So you did answer that.
Yes.
Is it the eyesight, is that correct?
Yes, and I think it's available on our website as well, thank you. Sorry, through you, Mr Chair.
Any other questions? So do I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Yeah, happy to move this, and just wanted to reiterate my constructive criticism in regards to the paper. I think, you know, it points to us that we do need to consider the detail in the forum that we share information through. And that's coming from a place of continuous improvement. You know, we know we can always do better at everything. So thank you, Robin.
Okay, all those in favour of the recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right, we're on to item 6, notice of motion, petition calling for citizens-initiated referendum on state highways maintenance.
Tēnā koutou. I will pass over to Mayor Wise in a second to introduce this item. I just would like to note, I'm not 100% sure that the report is a legal report. We're only proposing to distribute the petition forms, so I don't know whether there is a direct legal implication, but I'm happy for governance to guide us on that.
Okay, would you wish to comment on that?
I'll speak to the paper.
Yes.
So obviously, this is with regards to New Plymouth District Council, a petition calling for a citizens-initiated referendum relating to state highway maintenance, and that we provide these petitions at appropriate council facilities to enable our community to participate. At the LGNZ conference last month, we were one of the supporting councils for the remit from New Plymouth District Council on this topic. And the remit was that LGNZ publicly lobby all political parties to increase Crown funding for state highway and local road maintenance budgets, and also consider and pursue other avenues, including the Office of the Auditor General, to seek resolution of the issues facing the country in relation to the systemic rundown of our national roading infrastructure. And we did have quite a significant debate and discussion at our last council meeting with regards to supporting that remit in particular at the LGNZ AGM. And I would note that the remit received 98% support of the membership for this particular remit. So it is something that has been recognised to be a nationwide issue, and particularly an issue for us based on the data that we had been presented, where Hawke's Bay and East Coast roads were had the least investment over a significant period of time. So I was happy to support this notice of motion that came through from New Plymouth District Council to provide our community with an opportunity to participate in lobbying all political parties on this matter. We know that our community is concerned about this. We know that all of the state highways leading in and out of our city have some significant issues and underinvestment, and this has occurred over a number of years, and it is time that we actually start actively advocating to have increased funding. Council officers have noted that there is a low risk that by seeking additional funding for state highways, it may impact our local road maintenance budgets. However, they have noted that it is only a low risk, and that clearly what we are actually attempting to do here is attain additional funding for the state highways, and that should not be at the expense of the local road maintenance funding that we receive. So yes, happy to just put this for questions.
Is there any questions, please? I think the picture, when you look at the graph, is the centre of the North Island is probably all in the same cage to a certain degree. So very interesting. Is there any questions? I guess I've got a mover and Mayor Wise for the paper. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mawson? Any further comments?
No further comments.
You got a question? No questions? Okay, everyone in favour of the recommendation? please say-
Can we speak to it, please?
Oh, sorry.
Against? Are the movers and seconders going to speak? Or
Oh,
you've
no, there's
spoken?
no further comments.
No.
Okay.
Councillor McGrath.
Through the chair, yeah, if anyone wants to look at this, I guess it's on page 25, and the graph goes back quite a long way. So the importance is that we are lobbying all the political parties. I mean, if ever there was a time to stand up for our community, it's here and now when you look at the graph, and we're way below everybody else. And this is all pre-cyclone, goes right the way back to 2016. So I absolutely fully support it and hope our community get the opportunity to have a look at it and decide if they want to sign it or not.
Could I just a question? What is the actual recommendation? Is it lobbying political parties, or is it authorising the chief executive to make? What is the actual motion we're speaking to?
This is
please?
authorising the chief executive to make the petition available in council facilities.
Right. Okay. So it's nothing about lobbying.
No, that was the
Competitions.
separate remit that went through LGNZ, so that's something
Yeah.
we've already supported and will be led by LGNZ.
But I'm talking about what this meeting is supporting, basically. Okay. So yes,
Item B in the officer's recommendation. It's part of it.
I would like to speak against this motion. First of all, I wonder about how accurate the data is now that since Cyclone Gabrielle, for Hawke's Bay in particular, there were thousands, hundreds of thousands, possibly millions spent on our roading across Hawke's Bay by Wakakotahi after the cyclone. And we've also just been given 260 million for roads and bridges. So although it looks pretty horrific on that graph, I just wonder how accurate those figures are now since Cyclone Gabrielle. The risk that our officers mentioned, it doesn't say it's a low risk, it just says it's a risk that increased funding allocation for state highway maintenance may result in lower ranges for local maintenance. So there's a finite funds to spend on roads, and dollars spent on this could well come out of other local roading repairs. Staff time, copying, promoting, distributing, collating, this all takes precious staff time, and I don't think it's a priority when our staff are so stretched. I looked up citizens-initiated referendum. For this to go anywhere, it has to get 350,000 signatures by the middle of July next year. Now, do you think people are really going to rally around this cause when there are so many others, such as health spending and reducing admissions? I don't see it as a particularly popular issue, or not popular enough to get 350,000 signatures. The other thing is that citizens-initiated referendum are not legally binding, so even if we did get the 350,000 signatures, there would be no compunction from the government to put it into effect. So if they get 350,000 signatures across the country in the next 11 months, the three choices are that the referendum goes within a month to either an election, well, that can't happen because our election's this year, or a vote in voting booths or postal. So that, to me, the last two referendum that did go through in an election cost the country $42 million. Imagine if it goes through, there's no election, it has to go in a postal ballot or a ballot box. You'd have to have 3.5 million voters notified. It just seems to me hugely expensive and irresponsible, really, for us to demand this. We're all wanting to reduce our own carbon emissions to slow down the destructive climate change, which is doing unprecedented damage with wildfires. Well, we know all about it from Cyclone Gabrielle, devastating floods, droughts, heat waves. I don't think it makes any sense for us to push for something which can only result in more traffic and more emissions. So if we push this, it will look like the people of Napier, that this is our top priority. We want them to sign a petition. I just think it's the wrong thing at the wrong time. It's a waste of money, it's a waste of staff resources. It has no hope of succeeding. and there's no obligation, if it does succeed in getting 350,000 signatures, for the government putting it into action. So I do not support this resolution.
Thank you. Councillor Gregg.
Through the chair, yes, I'd like to speak against as well. Firstly, I feel it's a distraction from our core business. And secondly, if there's any risk that it will take money away from our local roading, I can't support it.
Through
You've spoken, haven't you?
Yeah, I have a question. Am I able to ask a question?
Yes, certainly.
Councillor Bogue said there was 3 options. Is there a 4th option?
Like what?
Well, the government could just choose to do it. Is that an option they have?
Question is, I don't know.
Oh, they could.
Yeah, they could do that. We don't know.
So it's a 4th option.
Any other questions? Yeah, wise and
Not a question, but a discussion, I suppose. I have no problem with us authorising the Chief Executive to print off a petition and have it available at council offices. So from that perspective, I think it's fine. Little bit concerned about maybe some of the stock that we're putting in this graph. Like my understanding in terms of remaining seal life is that's an asset management term that they use. So when a road is built, they give a road an expected life, and anything that goes beyond that, and then when it comes to doing repairs or maintenance on a road, that a road is based off its condition, not the length of time that it's been in service. So not saying that there's not an issue, just that this graph potentially shows that the roads that we have were built or have been maintained past their seal life, not that it necessarily depicts their condition. And so, I don't know, it's a bit nuanced in there, but I think putting a lot of stock in this graph, I think, is a little bit concerning. I can hear some of Councillor Bogue's posts around the likelihood of this going through. I think the question itself for the referendum is a bit of a, with all respect to Mayor Holdham, I don't think that the question is maybe ideal, because it's akin to, should we have a good education system? Like, nobody is going to say no to that question, but it doesn't take into account the complexities of the issue, or the trade-offs of, sure, we can spend all of that money to get our roads up to a standard and to reverse the issue, but at what cost, for one, and at what expense? So is it our healthcare system? Is it our local roads? So what is the money that's going to be taken from to go to this? So to summarise, I think I don't know, it's not the most ideal question, but I've got no problem with us supporting a petition.
So you're speaking for it?
Kind of somewhere in the middle. Discussion.
Okay, Councillor Crystal.
Just to follow on, where's the money coming from? When Waka Kotahi presented to us, they spent as much on the Road to Zero advertising and the Road to Zero projects as they did on road maintenance. So I think there's a pretty big fund there that some of that money could come from, because good roads will stop crashes probably more than any advertising will. So I'm speaking for it.
Councillor Crown.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Procedural question. Am I still able to speak to the motion, or have we...
Haven't suspended the...
You haven't spoken.
We've had
questions in which we've had 2 against and 3 not consecutive for, have we?
No.
So am I able to
Yeah, you can speak, yes.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Really interesting conversation and good considerations, I think, on both sides of the argument. It's funny how things that sometimes appear so simple, bring this kind of thing forward. But I'm speaking in support of it. And mostly because how do we best empower and enable our community to participate in a democratic process. We're constantly talking about wanting people to engage, wanting people to participate, and this is an opportunity for them to do so. It's also a topic that we hear about constantly. We're a widespread region. Cars are a huge part of our lives. We're aware of the environmental impact of those as well, and looking to strategies and approaches to try and make sure that we take care of that side of the things. But the reality is that we need to be driving in cars, and we need to drive in them safely, and the road condition has a huge part to play in that. Like I said, I'm speaking in support of that. Support of the motion. I think it's, this is part of a bigger conversation and a bigger system of things. So, would like to see this petition made available to our community at our facilities.
Thank you. Mayor Wise, right of reply.
Thank you, through the chair. And just to address some of the comments made by Councillor Bogue. Firstly, the investment that has been made post-cyclone to our state highway network was simply to get the roads reopened. It hasn't even returned them to the condition they were in pre-cyclone. It was just to enable people to now travel in and out of Hawke's Bay through our state highway network, and it's still incredibly fragile. The 260 million, which is currently within our offer, which I would add has not yet been accepted, we have to consult on it with our community, is not for the state highway networks. It is for our local roading networks, and predominantly in the Hastings district. Staff resourcing for this will be minimal. It is simply a case of getting copies of the petition made and having them made available at our council facilities. And I think 350,000 across the whole of the country is not a difficult target to reach when we know that there's dissatisfaction throughout a large portion of our country's residents with the current state of our state highway network. And I guess the thing for me that we cannot forget is that immediately after the cyclone, we were completely cut off from the rest of the country. We know there were issues with our state highways prior to the cyclone, and that therefore exasperated the damage that was done during the cyclone. We couldn't get food into our city. We couldn't get fuel into our city. We couldn't get to our hospital. And I think this is absolutely an issue that is well worth fighting for, and well worth creating an opportunity for our community to participate in this. We have dedicated Facebook groups where it is all about lobbying and our community fighting for a better state highway network. And this is us providing them with another mechanism to have their say. And I think that it's important that we create that opportunity for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'll put the motion. All of those in favour, please say aye.
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 Against?
No.
2. It's carried. Thank you. That's the close of the sustainable meeting, and we'll move on to future Napier. Councillor